Hey everyone! Today I am going to be talking about a book that I recently read, a new book in a series, the sixth book in a series that I have been enjoying for several years now, which is The Lost King by Geanna Culbertson, which is the sixth installment in the Crisanta Knight series. If you guys have not yet heard of the Crisanta Knight series, then you guys are in for a treat. Basically, the Crisanta Knight series debuted with its first novel, namely Protagonist Bound by Geanna Culbertson, and it has been a series that I absolutely love and have been enjoying ever since the first book came out. Basically, Crisanta Knight is about a girl named Crisanta Knight, who is the daughter of Cinderella, and who is attending a boarding school for girls called Princess Agnew's School for Princesses and Other Female Protagonists. And basically, in this world, in the Crisanta Knight world, basically all of the fairy tale characters that we know actually exist. At this boarding school, she is being taught how to become a princess, how to behave, like how to be kind of like a damsel in distress. Crisanta Knight herself, she's not really like that. She doesn't really like being told what to do. She doesn't really fit into like the stereotypical girly girl box that people want to put her in, or that the school wants to put her in. And basically this book, or this series in general, deals with her going on an epic adventure with her best friends, basically having to like save her realm and stuff. I can't really reveal any more than that. Needless to say that it is a super great series that has a very strong female lead as its main character, which is always something that I love to see. So if you guys love anything like fairy tale related, or if you guys enjoy sort of like fairy tale retellings, then this is definitely a book series that you might want to check out. This series has a total of 6 books now, starting with Protagonist Bound and ending with The Lost King, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. But yeah, I would highly recommend that you guys go pick up the series. It is definitely very unique in its world building. The characters, in my opinion, are very, very deep, and I feel like the story really deals with difficult questions and character growth in a way that I honestly haven't really seen to this extent in any other series. I think that the main character, Crisanta Knight, is constantly challenged by things. She's constantly questioning things about herself and about how she's supposed to deal with certain situations, how she's supposed to treat her friends, and I honestly feel like this series does a really good job of bringing out this sort of like real life struggles that probably protagonists very definitely are dealing with, that maybe other books just like don't really deal with very often. Like certain questions that protagonists have to ask themselves, like whether they're doing something moral or immoral. And on top of that, it is a super epic world filled with fairy tale characters and magic and betrayal and action and adventure, and it is just super awesome. And I honestly just like feel so happy every time a new book is released, every time I get to delve back into this world. So if you guys haven't yet checked out Protagonist Bound, then I would highly recommend that you guys do so. But today I am here to talk about the final book in the series, or not the final book in the series, but the 6th book in the series. There are 2 more books that are going to be released. The 7th book is actually releasing this October, called Into the Grey, which has a beautiful cover. In fact, all of the covers are super gorgeous. But yes, I am here to talk to you guys about The Lost King. Unfortunately, due to the fact that it is the 6th book in the series, I can't really say anything about the synopsis in terms of like not spoiling anything. I loved this book. I thought that it was absolutely amazing. As always, the thing that I loved most about this book were the characters and the character development. I honestly found this book to be super full of action, super full of adventure. I loved all of the character development that happened, and as mentioned before, I feel like this book especially deals with very deep questions and very deep topics. And in particular, I don't think that I'm spoiling anything by saying this. In particular, it talks about whether it is moral or immoral for a person who is, you know, on the side of good to maybe also kill someone who is evil or who needs to be stopped. And I honestly found that to be super interesting. This is definitely not a question that you really see in other books or other books where this is sort of like an issue. In those books, characters just sort of like do things, and you're sort of expected to understand like why it's good or bad. And while I definitely do understand why that happens in those books, and why it might be good or not good to sometimes kill an enemy or sometimes spare them, I think that this book does a really good job of actually going into the deep complexities that characters are really faced with, the problems that they need to, unravel, and sort of like you know, they have certain responsibilities, they have certain things that they need to take care of, but also they have this burden of always doing the right thing and always like being expected to know that what they're doing is good or not. And I think that this book does a really great job of, yeah, bringing out this topic, making the character think, making the reader think by reading what the character thinks about it, if that makes sense. And yeah, I found myself to be quite challenged while reading this book, which is also something that I always love when, yeah, reading a book. This book was packed with adventure. The characters went on a crazy adventure, and yeah, there was betrayal. There was an amazing plot twist that I did not see coming. And again, I can't really say much about it, but needless to say that I love this book. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I am definitely super excited to get to Into the Grey, the 7th book, which is releasing this October. And I think that's pretty much all I can say about it, unfortunately. So I am going to get into some spoilers. So if you guys haven't yet read Protagonist Bound or any of the books or the 5th book, basically, if you guys don't want to get spoiled for book 6, then please stop watching and go read Protagonist Bound. Seriously, it's absolutely amazing. And also, if you guys are interested, I have video reviews up on my channel of Protagonist Bound and the other books. And I also actually have a blog interview with the author Geanna Culbertson herself, if you guys want to go check it out. I will leave the link in the description box down below, as well as my other blog reviews if you guys want to check that out. But yes, if you don't want to get spoiled, stop watching now, because I am about to delve into some spoilers. Basically, in this book, things really get real for Crisanta and her friends. As we know from the previous book, the 5th book in the series, the Aurora, which is basically this magical fluctuation that is happening in all of the realms, is basically causing Crisanta Knight and her powers to kind of like spin out of control. And I think that that was genuinely like probably one of the most interesting things about this book is just how the way that Crisanta Knight's powers, the fact that she was really influenced by the Aurora and her pure magic disease, I found that to be incredibly fascinating and also slightly terrifying, because we genuinely have never seen Crisanta Knight's powers act out like that. She, yeah, like at times she was under the control of her magic, it seems. It was making her aggressive, it was making her very impulsive, and basically by the end of the book, something really terrible happens that, yeah, she lashes out in anger under the control of her magic and basically ends up killing someone. Again, like I said before, the whole idea of like whether it's moral or immoral to take someone's life has been a heavy discussion in The Lost King, and so this thing that happens at the end really kind of, yeah, like sets the tone for the next book as well. I'm very interested to see like what the ramifications are of what she's done, how this is actually going to affect how her powers evolve, and whether this is now going to make her, yeah, like go even sort of like more aggressive and lash out even more. In fact, I have my own speculations about why the next book is called Into the Grey. Basically in this book, I think at the end of the book it talks about how, yeah, like protagonists and stuff, like they're not really all good and they're not really all evil. Like sometimes they make mistakes, sometimes they make the right choices, and so they have to sort of like find their own comfort like in this gray zone, you know, holding themselves accountable for the stuff that they do, but also not setting too much expectations on themselves. And so I would speculate that probably the reason why the next book is called Into the Grey is because it is going to very heavily deal with Crisanta having to choose whether to use her powers for good or whether to like give into this darkness and give into these impulses, which is always a topic I think that was always at hand in the books, but that have never really been elaborated on to this extent. And so I am very interested to see how that will unravel. This is a burden that Crisanta has had to carry for several books now, and ever since learning that she has pure magic disease, this is also something that Crisanta has been afraid of, something that she's had to like take into consideration when making decisions and stuff. And so yeah, I'm very intrigued, interested in seeing how this is all going to develop. I obviously hope that Crisanta is not going to turn evil. We learn at the end of the book that that is basically the goal of the villains of the story, like Arian and so forth, that they're trying to basically make her evil, have her give in to these evil impulses. And I am really scared for her. I really hope this doesn't happen. I I don't know. I would not be surprised if it does happen and then that her friends might have to like rescue her from it or something. But as I said before, I just found it to be really interesting that in this book that the Aurora was really presenting this new obstacle for the characters, which is, you know, also what was helping them in the story get in and out of Alderaan. And yeah, it was also, for me personally, it was just like a tiny bit frustrating to see, yeah, Crisanta Knight constantly given to using her powers, even though it wasn't a good idea that she was doing so, because she was putting herself in danger of being exhausted magically. She was putting herself in danger of, yeah, like using her powers not for good, but giving into like evil impulses that she had. And I was honestly just like a tiny bit annoyed when she was kind of like not listening to her friends, putting herself in more danger, even though I understand why she did so, because obviously she was trying to save her friends, which is something that she's always done and something that, you know, as a hero she wants to do. And I honestly, like, I know like a lot of people are put off when they don't always find themselves like aligned with the main characters, when they find themselves kind of frustrated with them, but I honestly think that this is a sign of very, very, very good character development, who is very human, who has been created to be realistic. You know, main characters like are gonna frustrate us. They're not always gonna make the right decisions, as Crisanta Knight herself kind of figures out by the end of this book. They are going to fail. They aren't always gonna be perfect. And honestly, a character that is always doing the right thing, being perfect, like that's just not realistic. That is not what makes them relatable or like realistic as human beings. And I honestly think that a character that is well made, that if like grows in a sort of organic way, is also someone who makes mistakes and also someone who learns and grows. And I honestly feel like that learning and that growing is so much more important in character development than them like eventually just like never making a mistake again. But someone who is able to own up to their mistakes, someone who's able to look back and be like, well, I messed up, and then move past it. So that is something that I really love to see. I love that Crisanta Knight was just, yeah, like she was a great character. She was badass. She helped her friends. She honestly like was super awesome. As with the other books, she is herself. She is a human being. She has been crafted to be realistic and not perfect. And that is something that I really love to see in books. And that is also why, yeah, like her being faced with all of these questions about morality or whether something's okay to do or whether something's not okay to do, honestly makes you be able to like put yourself in the shoes of the character. And I honestly feel like this book, as I just said previously, is really, yeah, challenging me as a reader, challenging me as a person. It really just goes to show that, yeah, like it's really helping people understand, or me understand, that, you know, you don't have to be perfect all the time, but that learning and growing is just a very important part of, yeah, owning up to the mistakes that you made. And speaking of Crisanta Knight being an awesome character, I absolutely loved, as I've loved with every single book in the series, just what a feminist message this book is really presenting. Because Crisanta Knight herself, she's not a typical girly girl, she's not a typical, as you will, like feminine archetype. She doesn't want to be this like damsel in distress. She doesn't just want to like wear a dress and be pretty and be quiet and submissive and stuff. She wants to go out, she wants to be a hero. But on the other hand, she loves dresses, she loves also being a princess. And I feel like this is something that I love about this book, is that it really just shows that it is possible to be both like feminine in certain aspects, you know, wanting to look nice, wanting to dress pretty, wanting to be a queen, wanting to present yourself in a feminine way, but also it's okay to put on some chainmail, get yourself a sword, ride on a dragon, and like go and kick some villain ass. And I just love that about the series. I think that, yeah, like as a feminist myself, this series I think teaches young women good messages. The messages that the series presents is really empowering. And yeah, I think that it presents a very healthy message of being who you want to be, you know, and that it's not like you have to choose between being feminine or being sort of like a more masculine version of a woman or anything. But yeah, like that it's all about what you want, who you are, expressing yourself naturally, and who you want to be. And I think that is great. So there were 4 things in this book that really shocked me that I really want to talk about. Number 1 is that Crisanta basically is able to force this shadow monster thing out of Alex, her brother, who has previously betrayed her. As we know from the previous books, her brother has betrayed her and has joined the villains. And I now am really interested in knowing whether Alex is really going to continue being evil, continue supporting the villains' plans, or whether he is now, because he's been freed from this shadow that has been like clinging to his soul and probably also influencing him to a certain extent. I wonder whether now he is going to be able to choose, good or evil, whether he's gonna repent of his like mistakes, whether he's gonna go back to his sister and her friends. So that is something that I'm very interested in. I've always hoped for a redemption arc for Alex ever since reading about his betrayal in the 4th book. You can definitely see kind of like hints here and there that he still very deeply cares for Crisanta, that he doesn't want her to be harmed. In fact, early on in the book, I think he actually kills someone who was about to hurt Crisanta. So you can definitely tell that there is still this like protective instinct within him, that he actually he's siding with the villains not to be against Crisanta, but because he genuinely thinks that what they're doing is right, which obviously doesn't make it right, but it at least shows that he does have a human side, that he does have an empathetic side in him. And I genuinely hope that he is gonna, be good again, that he's gonna realize that he's screwed up, and I'm very interested to see how that will play out in the next couple books. Then number 2 is that we learn that Mauvery, the girl that has basically been bullying Crisanta, that has been antagonizing her, that has done horrible things to her in the past, might not actually have been Mauvery herself, but Nadia, one of the villains that has been working with Arian, might have actually been sort of like possessing her and causing her to do certain things. Also, like with Alex, I have been hoping for a redemption of Mauvery for the longest time. Even though she was obviously a horrible character, I always felt like there was something about her that was redeemable. Sometimes she had, I think, conversations with Crisanta where she sounded very sympathetic and almost nice to a certain extent. I remember there was that time in the book, I'm not sure whether it was book 4 or 3, where she put a poisoned corset on Crisanta. And I remember before I was really shocked by that betrayal, because I think previously she was actually kind of nice to her. And so I honestly feel like probably the real Mauvery is actually quite nice. Maybe not like, super nice, but she's at least not a villain. And I genuinely think that Nadia has probably been controlling her for the most part. And so I'm very excited to see how that also will play out. And then number 3 is that Peter Pan has been shown to be the long lost son of Merlin and Guinevere, and that is honestly something that I was not expecting. I was so shocked when I learned that he was actually kind of like the true heir to the throne, and I honestly did not expect that. I think that was really well done. In fact, the title, The Lost King, obviously refers to Peter Pan. I thought that it referred to Arthur, and the fact that he was kind of like coming back from Neverland after being cured from his wound, but actually it refers to Peter Pan, and I am just really shook by it. I think that it's very sneaky that this reveal has been in the title ever since the title has been released. I am very interested in knowing whether he's like ready to take on the throne, whether he even wants this. I don't think he knows that he's Arthur's son yet, so that is definitely something that is going to be interesting to follow in the next book. And then the final thing that was probably the biggest plot twist in the whole book, which is that Crisanta learns that Daniel, who found a sword, I think it was by the Lady of the Lake when he was in Camelot with Crisanta, it has been revealed that this sword is actually the Balin sword, which is attached with a curse, meaning that whoever wields it will eventually kill their true love, which in Daniel's case is going to be Kai. And I honestly, I don't think I knew about the sword before I read that passage, but I'm not super surprised that he's gonna be faced with this dilemma, but I'm just quite shocked that it's kind of like almost like a curse that's been forced on him, if that makes sense. I have always been kind of wary of this like prophecy surrounding Crisanta and Kai, that she's gonna be like the death of her, or will be able to like harm her. And so I have always been interested in the dynamics between Daniel, Crisanta, and Kai. I don't know what's gonna happen. I hope she doesn't die, because I actually like her quite a lot as a character. And I have always been interested in this sort of like dynamic, also in relation to the fact that, and I don't know whether I'm saying this right or not, or whether I'm just like reading something into something that isn't actually something, but that is that I kind of feel like Crisanta and Daniel do like each other, and they do kind of have this like romantic attraction to one another. There are a couple hints here and there about like them looking at each other, Crisanta feeling this when she sees him with Kai and stuff like that. And so I kind of think that she's probably going to end up with him by the end of the series, although I honestly also wouldn't mind if there was no romance between the two of them, or no romance for Crisanta in general, because I just love reading the series, like for the adventure, for the characters. And so I don't think that romance is necessarily like a necessary element to the story, but I would be interested in knowing whether something might happen. I just really hope that whatever happens, like I just hate it when characters cheat on their significant others, even if like they end up being with the person that they were meant to be. I honestly really get like annoyed. I feel like it's not okay to cheat on anyone, no matter how in love you are, no matter how much this other person is like your soulmate, your true love. I think that is just not okay. And so whatever happens, I hope that it's resolved in a diplomatic, loving, kind, respectful manner. And I also hope that Kai doesn't die. I hope that Crisanta and her friends are able to find a way to break this curse, to, yeah, like make sure that she's not in danger of Daniel killing her. But I think that this is setting up a very interesting narrative for the next book, in combination with Crisanta already sort of like being under a lot of pressure because of her magic. She just killed someone. This is really going to make the stakes a lot higher for the next book. And I'm just really interested in knowing what's going to happen. I'm very excited for the new release that's coming out in October. And I honestly just can't wait to read about what's gonna happen. So that was it for my review. I would be really interested in knowing your guys' thoughts, whether you guys have read the book, whether you guys liked the book as much as I did, what shocked you the most. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys are having a great day, morning, evening, night, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye!